That is the truth of what you must seek.
Get fucked!
Street Fighter 6! I'm not bothering with it, and here's why. To those who may remember a very, very long time ago, back when the internet was in such a shithole, like it never was, and will still always be, I used to be pretty vocal about how much I detested Street Fighter V, because it's definitely one of Capcom's worst attempts at making a modern fighting game. And I don't want to hear about how the game was not false advertising and that they were going to focus on the online multiplayer and all that bullshit. It should not have taken as long as it did to make it as good as it possibly could. And not even Skullgirls is exempt from that, so I don't want to hear it. I know one of my good friends has been really looking forward to this, especially compared to Tekken 8 and Mortal Kombat 12. Unfortunately, I don't really have anything to say much about those two games in particular. Tekken 8 is just going to be more or less the same shit, except it's actually going to bring back Jun Kazama, and knowing Harada's story changes, they'll probably fuck her up. And with Mortal Kombat 12, yeah, I think I'd rather just play Mortal Kombat Trilogy or literally any other Mortal Kombat game. I'd rather play Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. At least that game started the whole norm of video game storytelling in the fighting video game. Seriously, MK9 is not the first and only fighting game to do this bullshit. So Capcom has unveiled a Street Fighter 6 showcase showing off a lot of the things in the game, such as the World Tour mode that's going full RPG, which Grand Blue Fantasy Versus already did that shit better, but whatever. Even other things like letting you optionally install the modes that you want to play, and of course the demo, which I'm not bothering with. I already learned my lesson with Street Fighter V, I promise. And all this other hoopla stuff that's been going around, including already releasing characters that are going to be DLC, which I guess nobody learned when fucking Capcom did the exact same shit with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, with Sigma and Ultron, I think? I don't know. The point is that people seem to forget whenever Capcom does something stupid, they get really pissed off about it. But then when Capcom does something nice for their community and do the same shit again anyway, they kind of forget about it anyway. It's kind of like when Nintendo shakes on a fan-made game, and then they do something nice, though it may not be by coincidence. The fact that Capcom is already announcing DLC characters before the game is even out, and particularly the lineup of which inspired me to make this rant, is pretty disgusting. I mentioned it on Twitter, but I want to talk about it a little bit briefly again, and how other fighting games that did this I wasn't exactly quiet about. Okay? I only skimmed through the announcements because I honestly don't even really care about Street Fighter as much as I used to these days. It seems that ranting about Street Fighter 6 in the same way that Street Fighter 5 did is just not going to get me anywhere. And it seems that Capcom is finally going to be taking initiatives and not taking a whole fucking year to add something as simple as fucking arcade mode. As long as it does not have the awful garbage fight money system that Capcom tried to incorporate, maybe it might be worth looking into at a bargain price, secondhand, so they don't get a cent off of me. But I digress. So the 4 DLC characters that are being released, I don't know how much they are, I don't know what fucking garbage season pass, character pass, whatever the fuck is going to be there, but you have Rashid, AKI, Ed, and Akuma. Now, this kind of pissed me off because 3 of these 4 characters were already in the last game. 2 of them were already in Street Fighter V. One of them was pretty much a fucking legacy character. And Aki-Man, Aki-Woman, I don't fucking know. That one, whatever. Having a brand new character's DLC, fine, whatever. Even Ed and Colleen in Street Fighter V. At least, I used to feel that way, because I thought, with however I felt about Colleen, I really don't know, nor do I care. It's irrelevant, but I could understand, at the very least, having Ed being purchasable, if we want to play devil's advocate. since he might be a character who did appear in Balrog's ending of Street Fighter 4, or Colleen being the secretary of Gil in Street Fighter 3. They are at least using new assets to make the character relevant to the fighting engine that Street Fighter 5 has. I can't really understand having to pay for Ed again when he's already fucking DLC in the last game. But why Rashid of all people? Why couldn't he at least be part of the base roster? Wasn't he like one of the main faces of Street Fighter 5 story mode that barely got updated at all? What kind of bullshit is that? And paying money yet again for Akuma, when it was already DLC in Season 2 of Street Fighter 5. Season 2! I don't even agree when Capcom did the same shit with Balrog and Guile and Ibuki and even Jury. It's just crap. I'm sure some fucking Capcom drone is gonna justify this because, oh, well, they have to make money. Capcom has to make money. They have to feed their starving kids in Japan, don't you know? How fucking retarded logic is that? Also, there was a random game FAQs post I found that's quite old that mentions how Akuma is in the base game of Tekken 7, but you have to pay money for him in Street Fighter 5. Believe it or not, I actually liked the story mode from Street Fighter 5. It was actually somewhat interesting, but then Capcom never added a second story mode, even though they added a whole bunch of new characters at the time. Only the Season 1 cast got anything remotely close to what Mortal Kombat passes as good fighting game story content. Seriously, even when Gil got added and he was teased at the end of story mode, that was it. But Street Fighter 5 story mode is DLC. Granted, it's free, but you still have to download it. Even something like King of Fighters 15 adding in Omega Rugal is just added in via an update. You don't have to go to the DLC list and add him as a downloadable character. I've been saying this for a lot of games. Not just any fighting game, but any game in general. If you have to download something that's free and not part of an update, that's still DLC. I hate it when games mix up these two things saying, oh, there's going to be this character added as free DLC, or this thing's going to be added in as an update, except it's either mixed up or it's just blatant misinformation, and I hate it. The fact that Street Fighter 5 story mode was barely touched, except if you want to go through the fights again on a harder difficulty or whatever, and even those awards got cut. What makes you think that Capcom's not going to do the same shit again? Remember when they used to do those weekly challenges where you got certain things that triggered in the back when you got free fight money? They stopped doing that. I think the only way to get consistent fight money is to do some bullshit that has to do with online battles. Usually in the form of ranked, casual, or lobby. Or at least Street Fighter 4 was simple and to the point. The only thing they really fucked up on was with the ranking system, where you could change the time limit in round settings in ranked online play. But whatever. Everything else I feel was pretty okay. And even Super Street Fighter 4 with its weird-ass modes that were technically free DLC they had to download onto your Xbox 360 and PS3 did make the gameplay at least a little bit better. But this whole RPG thing of Capcom, I'm kind of worried they're going to do the same bullshit that where they make you pay money to get an advantage or some bullshit. Killer Instinct did that shit with Shadow Lords, and that was a piece of shit. Seriously, Shadow Lords is like one of the worst fucking modes for Killer Instinct, and that was kind of hyped as the biggest thing ever, except there was microtransactions just for a chance to fight Gargos and possibly get his one stage for use outside of that mode. I didn't forget that shit. And you're probably thinking, well, player, that's really tinfoiled hat of you. Capcom can never do no wrong, and yet every time Capcom wants to dip in on the fans buying literally anything, they legit drip-fed Mercenaries Mode in Resident Evil 4, their supposed magnum opus, and even having some really stupid microtransactions that aren't even clear in the slightest. This is almost like when Beanox did this bullshit with Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, where the game launched and was just fine, but then someone at Beanox slipped in the microtransactions, and who would everyone blame? Fucking Activision. But remember, guys, they're just a publisher. You can't criticize Activision because they're just a publisher. We could shit on them all they want, but don't you dare criticize them or their game prices, because that's just what Activision does. Yeah, okay. When Funny Donkey Man goes on about the games that he wants to curate to publishes, you get on some indie game's case though, right? Fuck off with that. I never want to hear the they're just a publisher argument ever again, if people will literally attack a game that even others have said that Funny Donkey Man had barely anything to do with besides being the publisher, but then probably the same people will go after Bethesda when they fuck over Mick Gordon or anyone else within id Software, or when they add in kernel anti-cheating DRM de novo bullshit, or even removing Doog Eternal. Seriously, people pointed a lot of fingers at Bethesda, and a lot of people said, oh, don't blame Bethesda, they're just a publisher. I seriously never want to hear that fucking argument again. When people are quick to jump the gun at any fucking game that gets developed or published these days. Fuck all of you. I don't want to sound like I'm being a Capcom hater or anything. I do enjoy Capcom's fighting games, even their other games that may not even be fighting. I still enjoy Resident Evil, pre-RE4 anyway, and even something like Resident Evil Gaiden that did the whole dropping ammo when you kill enemies, but still has actual survival elements. Shocking, I know. I have a feeling that Capcom is probably going to do something stupid with this World Tour mode, and that there's going to be certain modes that you have to download in whatever fucking pack they have. World Tour mode, a mode in Alpha 3 which all it really was just a series of battles where you got to level up your character with light RPG elements, getting a couple of cool abilities to use in arcade mode after you cleared it. That's all it really was. And even the PSP version letting you outright customize a character for use in ad hoc battles essentially says something like your land to you non-PSP users. But let's also talk about how Capcom's going to be handling this Street Fighter 6 choose what you want to download, because this is really fucking stupid. You have Fighting Ground and World Tour, okay? So basically one is the RPG mode, and I'm guessing one is for literally anything else. Capcom is so fucking vague sometimes with what you can choose from, it's not even funny. Also, because of how they're going to incorporate this, I can't quite possibly imagine that Capcom is going to be able to do the same thing that not even Halo Master Chief Collection could do properly. Yeah, people want to sing the praises of how being able to play all the classic Halo games, well, all of them except for, like, what, one? Sorry, I don't consider Halo 4 classic Halo.
Sorry.
Capcom is going to try to do what 343 did with Halo MCC, except Capcom is known to pull people under the rug with shit like Street Fighter Cross Tekken, which that was a big fucking deal. I'm not saying that Capcom might do something as extreme as Street Fighter Cross Tekken or even Asura's Wrath. But the fact that Capcom is making their big mode in RPG and knowing what kind of modes they could possibly monetize, something tells me they're really going to fuck something up, and I'm going to laugh at people if they manage to be mad about this whenever it comes. And if it doesn't happen, then well, shit, I guess this video is just going to be outdated then. Now will it? Another thing I do want to mention with this whole World Tour mode is that even something like Grand Blue Fantasy Versus did actually have a mode that's very similar to this. It kind of reminds me of a 2D version of what Tekken did with its Tekken Force mode, except you could also play that mode in co-op, kind of like a version of Street Fighter Alpha 3 with Dramatic Battle. And yet, I haven't really seen any actual talks of that unless I just didn't look in the right places, but even something like Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, developed by Arc System Works, part of another IP I know nothing about, even having a mostly honest mode that you could just grind and play the game gets barely talked about because my online netcode, rollbacker GTFO, but yet people will cream their pants knowing that Street Fighter is going to be taking the RPG route. Street Fighter isn't even the first fighting game to do RPG-like elements. Take this as a conspiracy theory video, but they always try to cash in, and I don't want people to succumb to bullshit. I did that with Street Fighter 5, and I really want to do it again with Street Fighter 6. I have a feeling that Capcom's going to fuck this up, okay? And I really don't want Capcom to do this game dirty. It might be the most interesting to look at, but we have to see what Capcom offers besides a demo or whatever the fuck.